Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Sudut Pandang secara langsung dari Studio Awani di Bukit Kewangan, Kuala Lumpur. Malam ini saya ada tetamu khas dari luar negeri. Oleh itu saya ingin meminta izin untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris. I would like to welcome my foreign guest for tonight who flew far away to come here, Professor Dr. Anis Ismail. He's the Professor of General Practice in University of Manchester. He's also the Associate Vice President for Equality and Diversity, University of Manchester. Thank you so much for coming here. And of course, beside him is somebody that I know very well, who always come to this show, is Professor Dato Dr. Syamsul Amri Baharudin. He's the founding director of the name is KITA, it's easier to remember, of UKM, with ethnic studies and all that. But tonight I want to draw a parallel in terms of comparing and maybe drawing out some lessons between the ethnic experience in Britain and the ethnic experience in Malaysia. We have both experts here. So I would like to start with, recently, a few days ago, we got to know that a lot of the far-right parties, they want seats in the MEP, MEP, or members of European Parliament, for example. Among them was the British National Party members, for example, and is this showing the rise of what is being called sometimes as fascism and hatreds toward other ethnic being the main driving motivator between, you know, choosing somebody like that as compared to somebody else? And if we look at Holland, while the party also won, I think, about 4 seats.
That's correct.
And they came out with the video fitna, for example, which traveled even here in terms of its perception and publicity. So is the rise of anti-ethnic sentiment, for example, in Britain a problem now? Or has Britain managed this, and BNP, for example, is just a small minority in an otherwise almost coming to a stabilization in terms of ethnic relations?
Right, yeah. No, I mean, it was a very sad day when the British National Party won those seats, because they're not so-called fascists, they are fascists. And I think that it was really a failure of the political class, particularly the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, to confront them and challenge them. And we have to put into perspective, really, that the British National Party have never succeeded before in any national elections. They have sometimes won local seats, which have been temporarily won for a few years, and then they've lost them again. And I think that their success was not a reflection of the rise in anti-ethnic sentiment, but the failure of the political parties, because there was a huge resentment about the scandal around expenses, for example. And I think people lost faith in politics and the ability of politics to make change. And the British National Party rode on the back of that. So I'm not complacent about that, and I do not believe that it represents a hardening of attitudes towards ethnic minorities in the UK, because I think, and this is what we can talk about later perhaps, that Britain has come a long way in terms of living with and understanding its ethnic minority population. And I think that in many ways it is, as an ethnic minority myself living in Britain, I feel more at ease now in that country than was the case when I first arrived as a refugee from Uganda. And I think that that is an interesting concept. I mean, my children now don't see themselves as either half Indian or half Greek like their mother. They see themselves as British, really. And I think that is quite a positive thing. And I think that is the experience of the majority of ethnic minorities, I think. So I think it is a very tragic thing that the British National Party got where it did.
The improvement of situation among ethnic communities in Britain, is that because of government policies, enactment of laws and regulations, or a general sentiment of the population overall?
I think it's because of all these things, actually. I think that things would not have improved unless there was protection under the law, and that was very important. I mean, when I first arrived in the UK as a 13-year-old, as a refugee, I remember I felt frightened to be able to go out at night. I would never go near a football ground on Saturdays, because it was almost a national sport to attack Pakistanis or Indian-looking people. I think there was a huge discrimination. I mean, not quite when I arrived, but it was not uncommon to see signs, for example, saying no blacks, no Irish, no gypsies, no dogs, things like that. So it was a society which was trying to come to terms with the fact that there was a huge immigration, which was, of course, encouraged. I mean, this was the point, that people came to Britain, not me as a refugee, but on the whole, because Britain needed the labour. There was not enough doctors, there were not enough nurses, not enough people to run the services and the buses and everything else. So Britain needed immigrants to come. And what happened is that initially those immigrants had very few rights, but over time those rights were enshrined in law, so we were treated as equal as everyone else, and that was important. And I think the people in Britain also began to accept people more. And, you know, I mean, now you can walk down any British high street and you will see a huge mix of people working in the shops. You will see the supermarkets full of Polish food and Indian food and even Malaysian food in some areas of Britain. So I think it's been a combination of lots of things. Legislation was important, but so was the fact that political parties also made sure that we at least spoke the language of anti-racism, and I think the people also then began through things like education to mix and to integrate better.
Professor Datuk Dr. Shamsul, what are we actually looking forward to tomorrow when there's this public forum on race relations, the British experience, for example? What do we want to draw from the Britain experience?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that we can benefit from such exchange. First, I believe Malaysians of all ethnic groups and of all groups are so busy looking at themselves, what I call navel gazing, multiple navel gazing. I mean, everybody looking at their navel, and they don't really discover what's outside there. So I decided to bring someone to come to Malaysia and talk about this, and probably take us away for a while from looking, how much do you get? Why don't I get this much? Why shouldn't I get this scholarship? Now let us listen, pause for a while and listen. A real experience that happened in no less than Britain. I mean, once was the masters of this country. So I think the perspective that Professor Anis is going to bring is quite surprising to a lot of people. I mean, after reading his articles, we realized that this is not just a fun thing, you know, it's something really serious and deep. Now, can we go as deep as he could? This is probably one of the other aspects that I would like people to think. And perhaps by tomorrow, when we listen to the kind of questions that he will get, it will give us an indicator how we perceive ourselves and as well as the others. And of course, there is not an apple versus apple situation. There are totally two different contexts, but it doesn't mean we cannot learn from there. You know, so I think I just hope that the general public will welcome him, and I will definitely welcome him and thank him very much for finding the time. Yeah.
Maybe we can tap a bit more of a preview of what's going to be shared tomorrow, but I have to go for the first commercial break. Once we come back, we're going to hear that from Professor Anis. Meet you after this.